Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and share. I am your host. Let's jump right in. Hello. My name is Sabrina. Thank you for joining us at the Her Version podcast. This platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from learning from other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Niki. Niki is a happily married mother of 2 children living in South Florida. Yay, Florida. But it was not always that way. Niki, once a high school cheerleading captain and aspiring mathematician, took a sharp turn in her early years to being a college dropout and a homeless prostitute. Her time in the street, both in Lake Worth Beach, where she once unsuccessfully rehabbed, and in New Jersey, where her family lived, was filled mostly by short stints in jail for possession, DUI, and theft. She is not the only one, and that is why she is here speaking today. The nation's health experts report that nearly 21 million Americans, or about 1 in every 7, struggle with addiction. Only a fraction, 1 in 10, will get treatment. As a last resort, Niki's family, back in 2016, reached out to the Dr. Phil show to try and save Niki from herself. Now, looking back, Niki credits Dr. Phil's staff for putting her on the road to recovery. Her sober start was Christmas Day 2016. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome, Niki. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
My eyes started going a little cross there for a second. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am so good. I'm so happy to have you here. I love your story. I know that that's weird to say. But I really do. As soon as I talked to you, I obviously watched the Dr. Phil show, and obviously we had spoke first. So just seeing the transition just like warmed my heart so much to realize that like people can do this.
Yeah. I encourage people especially when they first meet me, to go watch the Dr. Phil show. I'm like, you need a little context to see that like this is a miracle. And I could say it, but to see it really makes it real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate to say, the drug that they're highlighting on the Dr. Phil show is heroin. Was that the only thing that you were, or were you dabbling in other stuff?
I was dabbling, and like I am of the belief that I was like born an alcoholic. So obviously, when I got to that point when I was on the show, heroin was what primarily took me down, but I had problems with everything. Like I never drank like other people. I never drank successfully. And I think it just led me to heroin because of the relationship I had with myself. I think heroin made it easiest to live with myself. I didn't like myself.
Yeah, 100%. My heart goes out to your sister so much watching that, her getting so angry. I'm assuming that you guys have like come together and
a lot. This is like another experience I share. Like it takes time, and like that was one of the more challenging relationships, and to some extent still is. I've been very fortunate that like I have been able and allowed to be present in my niece's life. My daughter has since had her own child, and I gave my family really no reason to trust me or believe that I would get sober. So I know it was very difficult for them, even when I was celebrating a year. I mean, even now with almost 6 years sober, if I like don't answer my phone for a couple hours, that's still where their mind is going to go, and like that's still real to them, it's still very real to them. And I think that like the ability that I've had to be present for, especially my mom and sister who were on the show with me. I mean, I really dragged them through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that for sure. So if you don't mind, I would like to just kind of hear a little bit. Obviously not everyone's seen the show. P.S. I am a huge Dr. Phil, like ridiculous fan. And I think I told you that when we first were talking, like, I bet I've seen, which I had not seen the episode. But
Okay.
I bet you I have seen this episode because I watched Dr. Phil, the reruns, on YouTube, which I just have running in the background, like when I'm cooking or what have you. I'll just glance up to see what everyone looks like.
Yeah.
Continue watching. But I love Dr. Phil. I love that you're like a real life example of what came out of that. But if you could share a little bit about your story, your background, your journey, where you are now.
Sure.
And, we'll kind of just flow from there.
Sure. So if you Google the Dr. Phil show, you will like see me right at, I would say, like a very pivotal moment in my life and my story. When I was on the Dr. Phil show in 2016, I was 8 months pregnant with my first child. I had been homeless for the better part of a decade. I wasn't working. I was in and out of jail. I was sustaining like a very, very massive drug habit, through theft and prostitution, which I, would spend intermittent periods in jails and facilities as a result of. So I had completely lost touch with my family who was back in New Jersey. I kind of would bounce back and forth between New Jersey and Florida. I'm from New Jersey. I actually live in Florida now. I actually got sober in Florida after spending a lot of time on the streets in Florida. The Dr. Phil episode was actually filmed down here in the same city that I now own a home in, which is crazy. I used to like sleep in a field 2 miles from here.
Wow.
So at that point, I had found out that I was pregnant when I was in jail. I was about 6 months pregnant at the time. It was hard to like estimate. I didn't see a doctor at all during that time. I had no prenatal care. I overdosed multiple times during my pregnancy. And it's hard to get into treatment in this country if you don't have insurance. It's really hard if you're pregnant. And like, I wish I had an answer for that. But my family literally wrote the Dr. Phil show to get me help. So like, I am very fortunate for that because I don't think there's some divine intervention because like who gets a call from the Dr. Phil show on Facebook Messenger, I was sitting outside, pondering what I was going to do next. This message pops up on my phone. It was one of the producers from the Dr. Phil show, and they told me they were interested in my story and helping me. And at that point, like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had completely spiraled my life out. All of my attempts to get sober had failed me in the past. And I said, like, what do I have to lose at this point? So I agreed to do the show. I knew they were going to send me to treatment, which was like, of course, was the goal. Like I didn't want to live the life I was living anymore. Like I absolutely didn't want to do that. But like the thought of, now it's not just me. I have this child inside of me. Like, I don't know how to even human on my own, let alone raise another small human. And like, I didn't know which sounded worse, like me dying on the streets of Lake Worth or me getting sober. And like all of my experiences with not drinking and using have been like really unhappy. Drugs and alcohol really made me like comfortable in my own skin for years and years and years. It was it was the only coping mechanism I had. So when I agreed to do that, the first thing they did after the show was they got me some prenatal care, and I was very pregnant. Like I was about to give birth. I gave birth 7 weeks after that, my first prenatal appointment. So I was discharged from the treatment center. I went home and I had my baby. She's beautiful and she's perfect. And she is going to kindergarten next year. I went to her kindergarten roundup today.
Yes.
So I had her, and like something other than me had plans because I used for 32 weeks of my pregnancy and she came out perfect. And I thought in that moment, it was like one of the most powerful things that stuck with me. I thought in that moment that being a mother was going to be enough to keep me sober. And like, it's so difficult. It's like such a stigmatizing thing right
Mhm.
now, but like, I could not stay sober for that like perfect little child, and I didn't stay sober. And like the good people at the Dr. Phil show sent me back to treatment again. And I got sober when my daughter was 3 months old. And that was like, you know, something I didn't think was possible. I would sooner have accepted the fact that like I would have died on the streets than like the fact that, I got sober and, have a life today that is like built on, so many other things that like I had no interest on, helping others, being a mom, being present. And like I have this amazing life today that started from that crazy Dr. Phil episode.
That's awesome. So you originally went, then had your baby, and
Yes.
then relapsed.
Yes.
And so then do you just call Dr. Philip on his cell phone and say, hey?
I wish people ask me all the time, they're like, do you just call Dr. Phil? I was like, I wish. No. Um, my mom would lose it. She's like a diehard Dr. Phil fan.
Yes, me
Yeah.
too. I would too.
I communicated, and I will say that like when Dr. Phil saw me when I did my first follow-up, I've done a couple follow-ups, he like couldn't even believe, he's like, is this you? And he is like a good guy. He really is. He's been like that every time I've seen him again, but I don't contact him directly. I actually got arrested. I relapsed after I had my daughter. I got arrested again. And my family, like, they don't bail me out or anything. I just like sit in jail. And I called the Dr. Phil show and I was like, listen, you guys, I was like, I had been
From
putting
jail?
from jail. That was my one phone call. I called the Dr. Phil show. So I had been putting off going back to treatment because I really believed my daughter was going to keep me sober. At that instant, like I didn't want to use. I thought I would never want to use again. And like I really didn't have a lot of education on like, what has gotten and kept me sober now. And I just like, I couldn't imagine that like the love of my child was not going to be enough. So I put off, the plan was always for me to go back to treatment. And I didn't. I just ignored these people when they were calling me, trying to help. Like, Nikki, you had the baby. Like, please come back to treatment. And then, the universe intervened and I got arrested. And suddenly I became a bit more willing to go back to treatment.
Wow,
Yeah.
no kidding. Where was the baby? Was she with your mom?
So my child was removed by DCF and placed with my sister. And that's like another huge part of my story. I almost lost my parental rights like before I had the ability to be a parent. I didn't get my daughter back until she was about 18 months old. And when she was 13 months old, the state of New Jersey told me that like I was not fit to have my child back. Even though I had a year plus of sobriety, they told me that it would be more appropriate for my sister to adopt my child. And that was heartbreaking. And like it was, a lesson in emotional sobriety that I'm very thankful for today. But like in that instant, it's why I'm like I believe in this power and like this like experience that I've had that has gotten me sober, because I knew I was doing the right thing, being in Florida, helping other women. I was just getting started, like working in the field, and like I really felt like this is where like God and the universe wanted me to be, was like here helping others. And I really knew in that moment, like sitting in the courtroom, even though they told me like, we're changing your goal to adoption, like I knew that my job as like a human was to help others. And like if the universe wanted me to have my child back, like if I keep doing the right thing, that's what's going to happen. And that's what did happen, which is crazy.
That's awesome. How was the atmosphere between you and your sister during this time? Was it gratefulness? Was it frustration? Was it
It was a lot of both. And like I said, I totally understand the hesitancy from my family. And I am very, again, grateful for like the spiritual experience and like enlightenment and the women that have surrounded me and kept me accountable, because I was able to see like, you know I am like expecting these people to believe me, and like why should they believe me? So I totally understand why my sister was not in agreement with me having my child back, and why she thought, she's just going to relapse again. Like, it's just going to happen again. And I totally understand that, it didn't make it easier to, it doesn't not hurt, like I say that all the time. Like, it is one thing to like take a seat back and like remember, I go through this for a reason. There's a reason that I'm struggling. There's a reason that I'm going through this pain. Like, there's going to be a purpose for me to use this. There's a bigger plan that I can't see, but like, that doesn't take away the pain, being told that like, you're not going to have your child back and you're going to terminate your parental rights. Like, that hurt. And it like it strained, I mean, our entire family dynamic, as addiction does, and like continues to do, for a couple of years into my sobriety.
Yeah. I bet. And now you have another little one.
Yes.
You're married.
Yes, I got married. My husband adopted my daughter, which is amazing. I know. I mean, he's daddy, and now we have 2 kids. We have a little boy now too, which is awesome. We have
So cute.
A little 1-year-old, who's crazy. He's a little crazy boy. And like, that's like an experience, my daughter is like my little miracle, like I almost lost her. And like, I know like the pain of not being able to stay sober for her, but like, what a different experience it is to be a sober mother. Like, I experienced my entire pregnancy sober. I gave birth sober, and like, it's amazing. No one showed up in my hospital room to take my child away from me, which is, like an unfortunate reality, and like, it's what I expected with my first. I was like, okay, like, I'm going to just go into labor. They're going to come take this baby from me at the hospital, but then I can go get high and I'll feel a little bit better about it. Like, that's where I was at before I got sober. Like, I didn't even care.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Who named your daughter, by the way? Did you name her?
I did. Yeah.
What is her name? I don't remember.
Adley.
Where do you get that from?
So I spent all this time looking in baby books because I like couldn't find anything I liked. And there was a variation of her name in a book, Hadley, and they had like, all the different spellings and all the different variations. And I saw the variation of Adley, and it was like the first name. Naming a human, by the way, is like, what a burden. Like, I have to pick a name that someone else is going to go by for their entire life.
Yeah.
What a responsibility.
Yeah.
But like, it was the first name that I heard that I was like, oh, okay. And like, naming girls so hard, right? Oh my gosh. I named my son after my husband, and like, that was it. We were done with that. Easy.
That's great.
Yeah.
My son, his name is Elijah.
Okay.
But we were going between Elijah, Jeremiah, and Sebastian.
Oh, I like Sebastian.
Yeah, I like all of them. He loves his name though, so I'm glad
That's
we
good.
went with what we went with. So.
My son is James, and we got a little creative on the middle name, so he's James Oliver.
Oh, I love that. I love the middle name Oliver.
I know.
Or just the name Oliver, I should say.
I know.
No matter where.
My husband, that was my husband's vote. He liked the name Oliver, but I wanted to like kind of keep the little family tradition going with the first name. So
yes, very cute. Well, I love it. Well, congratulations on the marriage and the baby and all the goodness that's happening in your life. I'm so happy for you and the family that you're creating. I want to ask, throughout, your journey and, from beginning till now, I'm certain that there was tons and tons of challenges, but I'm wondering if you could share one of the biggest challenges that you went through in your life and what you believe you actually learned from that challenge.
Yeah. So I had this awful relationship with myself. And like, I didn't know that, first of all. I think it's just like a struggle I've had my whole life. Like I mentioned before, like I was born with like a piece missing, right? Like I didn't like myself. And like the hardest thing for me was like accepting that, I am like a type A, overachiever. So when I like dropped out of college and went off the grid for 10 years, it didn't make me feel any better about myself, obviously. But like, the relief and like not only relief and peace and like contentment, but like the support I found with being honest, it has not only like opened up me and like my connection with myself and like my higher power and like the amazing people that surround me, but like it has shown me that what my purpose is. And like, that's why I'm like such a, like my purpose is to be helpful and useful. And like the greatest thing I had to face was like being honest with myself. And, it's crazy. And you mentioned this, like right when you opened it, you're like, I love your story. It's a weird thing to say, right? But like my husband says that. He's like, I love when you talk about giving birth to your daughter. Like, it's so powerful. I think there's this huge stigma around, I mean, obviously substance abuse in general and mental health, like huge stigma. But like, obviously, like my niche and my passion and what I do now, like all of it is, I have this soft spot for mothers, like I know the pain of like getting honest, using during your pregnancy. Like society does not want to talk about that, like if I take care to not read the Dr. Phil comments, because like there are people who are like, you should be put to death, like people don't like to talk about that. And there's so many people, there's so many, women and the children being born to them, right? Like there's people out there giving birth, and like there's now 2 generations that could be helped if like we were a little more willing to like be honest and open up. Like there's people out there like me that have gotten sober, despite their children not keeping them sober in the past. And I think if like we could all, open up and be honest about our struggles, I think all humans, not even, particular to my struggles or substance abuse in general, if we could be honest about like what's going on, I think we would all be shocked to see that like we could help others with that, with everything. And like, I truly believe in that. Like there's someone out there that I can't help. I don't have the experience with it, but if someone else is willing to be honest with their experience, they can. And like that I see every day, not just in me. That's like the cool thing. If I see people like getting honest and like realizing like the importance of getting honest with themselves, it's hard. It took me years to be comfortable with myself. And like, I'm still not sometimes. I'm an anxious person. We can help others. Like, and that's cool. Like that is the good stuff. That's why, getting sober was cool, but like seeing other people get sober is even cooler,
Yeah, for sure. I know this is a little off topic, but do you know where your type A anxiety kind of stems from? Is that mommy's side or daddy's side or
Dad? So my dad also died. He's also an alcoholic, died of alcoholism. He died when I was 17. I wasn't raised by my biological father, but like I still maintained a relationship with him for the most part. And like he was a very successful, good looking guy, like super overachiever, was like a stockbroker by age 22, big house, married, family. But like he couldn't stop drinking, and he drank himself to death when he was like only 42 years old.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. How does it feel to know that much success is in your bloodline?
So it helps me.
Is that like heavy for you, or is that like cool for you?
It's both. Like I think when I first got sober, like I was like very overwhelmed about like how to pay homage to my father, and like how do I live up to his legacy, and like how do I make amends for like, the resentment that I carried towards him. But I think it helps me to understand him. Like I am just like my father, and like I totally see that now. Like I am my father, 100%. And I think it helps me, and it motivates me, and it gives me a lot of understanding. I know that some people like disagree with like, is this genetic? Because I totally see all of those things. Like I see me being my father, I see the issues that came from my father, and like I see the good things that came from my father too.
What are the good things? Tell me.
So definitely like, yeah, the type A personality. Like I am driven and motivated, and like I see all the things my dad was able to accomplish, like even when he was drinking and like could not stop drinking. And it's, I've like experienced that now in my life. Like spending all that time drinking and getting high, like the way that I did for so long, once I got sober, like I feel like I can accomplish anything these days. I'm in school full time. I have 2 kids. Like my advisors think I'm a crazy person. I started my classes last year, a day after I gave birth. They're like, maybe you should take a semester off. I was like, yeah, slow down. I could totally see that, like, that came from him. My dad was unrelenting, and obviously my stubbornness and unrelentingness can definitely be a fault at times, but I can totally see how I got all of those good things from him too. And like, I'm proud of those things. And like, it's so cool now that I've gotten sober too. My mom and dad split up long before. Like I said, I was raised by my stepdad, Don. He's amazing. He is my dad. But I think it's helped my mom even understand a lot of those things. Like, she'll say it in a way that's like, oh my gosh, like, your dad would do this, your dad, like, and like, she talks about the good things about him, and I think that it's even helped her see the good things in him and like see that in a positive light, because I know it was really hard for her for a long time, because she was of the same belief, like, why can't you get sober for your girls, and I
Yeah.
think it's really cool to see how me getting sober has like changed generations. Like, even my kids, 3 generations, like, I'm able to be present as, both of my kids have 2 sober parents. And I think like we are seeing all of that like over so many different generations now. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool. That just gave me
Yeah.
the chills. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you see that. Renee's talking to you. You want to read that?
Your honesty and transparency are astounding and so needed. Thank you. Listen, listen, that's the biggest challenge, right? The honesty is the biggest challenge. And it took me, I think, being like completely devastated and broken. And I think that's like a common thread you hear in a lot of inspirational people, which is like, I'm like the biggest TED Talk fan ever. I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
People, I think once we can like just accept, and see the need for change and like just be honest about it, it is so amazing what we can do with that. It's so empowering to like be honest about your struggles. Like, what an oxymoron, right? But like,
Yeah.
the power we find in talking about the things that hold us back.
100%. 100%. I know you said you are in AA, did do AA?
Yep, I am a very, very active AA member. I kind of attend a lot of the fellowships, but like, I guess a big book thumper is what they call
That's what
us.
they call it. Yep. That's what they call it. The cool thing about that program, which I appreciate, is I think it opens up people's minds to self development. And a lot of people don't get that education like freely. It's not just like out. You have to like actually open a book and read it or take a class or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But for these individuals that are enduring, some sort of addiction, could be anything. I've been in my fair of CODA meetings myself. But there's this underlying like teaching of personal development and self-development and growth, mentally
Totally.
and emotionally. Yeah, which I just love. So I was wondering what your thought was on the importance of that, not only for people that are suffering from that, but just for the world in general. What's your thoughts?
So it's so funny because, like, I always say, people always say that like they're grateful that they find AA, they're grateful that they're alcoholics because it brings them to AA, which is like absolutely true. If I didn't have a crippling drug addiction, I never would have found what has like proven to be just a different way of life. And I think that everybody suffers from like this, spiritual thing. Like, some people find it on their own. Some people like totally find a way to like develop their relationship with themselves and the people around them in different ways. Some people are able to like, they want to develop themselves. They want to like attain spiritual growth. And like, I only became willing to do those things because of my drug addiction. And I'm so fortunate that I found that, because I think that so many people could benefit from like what is actually being taught in AA. Like, if it's so funny because I share about like my experience in AA, and like my drug addiction brought me in there, but like that's not what I do anymore. Like, it's all about spiritual growth, like personal, how am I growing myself to be the person that like is the most useful in this world today, is like, the core message of AA. Like, I want to continue to make myself a better human, and I think that so many people could find that. And, people do find it other ways. But like, alcohol makes you very willing to make some lifestyle changes. It's really good for that. And I don't think I would have seen the necessity to work on myself as a human, because all I could see was the drug addiction, the alcoholism. Like that's all I could see. It was obviously pretty blaring. So, you know, and thank God, like it got me in there and I was able to see like, oh, I need to just work on myself as a human. I need to be a better human, you know? Gosh, but everyone, like my mom, I always like to say that my mom is like the most well-adjusted person in the world. Like she has like her spiritual foundation and she like strives to be a better person without AA. Like great. I don't understand that. Like that, like she's like so well-adjusted, because like the most well-adjusted people I know today are all my drug addict and alcoholic friends who like were forced into a like spiritual way of life, but then like found out like, oh my gosh, this is the answer, like just being a better human, you know. And I think that we could all benefit from that.
Yes, 100%. I was just going to say something, but I was listening to you, so then I forgot what I was going to say. Which I guess is a good thing. You know, when you were going from, I like to say the darkness to the light, you know, however you want to visualize that for yourself. But, you know, one of the biggest issues, I was going to talk about relapse. That's what so how many times did you?
So I like, this is why I didn't believe I would get sober. I went to treatment, you know, I went to like inpatient treatment 4 times. I went to detox multiple times. I did like the Baker Act thing because, you know, I'm a crazy person also too. So like I was involuntarily committed. I went to jail. I also did like the jail route. I tried detoxing myself. I tried like, well, maybe I'll go to like the methadone clinic, and like I tried for years and years and years. The first time I went to like a formal treatment program was in 2009. I didn't get sober till 2016. So, you know, 7 years of like just formal institutions trying to get me sober, and like none of that really stuck. So it took me a long time, but I will say that like once, and like this is why I'm so into this, like, you know, self-development, personal growth. Once I tried that approach, right? Like let me try to work on like the internal condition, I got sober, and I, you know, by the grace of God, I've been sober ever since. But like all my attempts to like go to treatment and like white knuckle it, like none of those kept me sober until I really opened my mind to like, maybe I need to like heal the person inside and like become a better person to the people around me.
Wow, that's deep, girl. That's deep. Do you think that that is the issue a lot of times? The reason I wanted to bring this up is that's like the I think the dark cloud that kind of hovers over addiction is this horrible word, relapse.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of like follows you around and haunts you and all of this stuff. And so when I got sober, I was just drinking. Wasn't, you know, I was drinking alcohol, and I literally just quit. I don't even know my date. I just, one Saturday we were going out clubbing and I'm like, I'm not drinking anymore. And I didn't take a drink that night, woke up sober the next day. I'm like, this is fucking fantastic. I'm going to do it again. And I just stopped. But I have serious like feelings for individuals who have this guilt around the relapse. And I just don't agree with it. I don't feel like it should be that heavy. I feel as if, I don't want to say relapse is part of it, because I also don't like the excuse of it, but I don't feel like it should be as heavy as it is. I feel like it should just be like, you relapse, cool, let's just do it again. You relapse, cool, let's just do it again.
I'm right there with you. I'm like right there with you on the relapse thing. I don't like the saying that like relapse is a part of recovery, because like that really hasn't totally been my experience. Like my experience is like relapse is like kind of the opposite of recovery. When I stop upping my spiritual game, like when I'm not like this Facebook message that popped up, like when I'm not working on this like healing myself, fitting myself to be more useful. Oh, my hand got cut off. I'm a handsy talker. If I'm not like fitting myself to be more useful, you know, as a human to the people around me, then I'm backtracking, right? And like in my experience has been that like they're kind of the opposite. Now, like that being said, just the fact that like my experience has shown that like relapse is kind of like the backtracking of recovery. I don't think it's like an unexpected, like I relapsed for years, and like it turns out that like what I relapse is like just my usage. Like I wasn't doing any of the healing. I would remove the substances from my body and do nothing else. So like if I was miserable, like
Got
my
it.
coping mechanism was drugs and alcohol. So when I don't have my coping mechanism and I haven't done any work to like fix the broken human inside of me, I am unhappy. So like yes, of course, like I don't, you know, I've relapsed so many times. I've worked with so many people. I mean, I have like a huge network of women, that we are out there helping people, and like it happens. Yeah, it does. Like that was my experience. Like I would relapse, like especially, when I was pregnant, when I was trying to like get sober for my daughter, which was one of my shorter relapses, honestly, but I feel terrible, but then like what's the thought? Well, what'll make that go away? I'll just drink more. So like, and then once I'm out there, it's like I keep going. I keep going. Like once that like physical thing is awakened inside of me, I keep going. And then I come to and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's still happening. Like I got to drink to numb this too. Like keep going, and like I totally believe that. And it's really hard to explain that. I know my dad was an alcoholic. I know it's hard to like love an alcoholic or an addict and to just say like, listen, like this is untreated alcoholism, right? Like this is, it's hard because like it's really hard and defeating to tell someone like there's nothing you can do um to change this if a person relapses. But it does. Like it doesn't make anyone feel better. And like at this point, I think it's a very difficult thing, and like it's a thing that like I'm very blessed and fortunate to have like lived experience on both sides with now to like understand that condemning someone, like that never got me sober. I mean, like I love Phil McGraw, don't get me wrong, but like when he's showing me pictures on a big whiteboard of like this is what happens when you're pregnant, like listen, I know I don't want to be doing this, right? Like I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be living this life, but like this isn't making it better for me. Like no one that I know of has like ever gotten like scared into having control
Scared
with
into
me.
sobriety.
you know
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, because it pulls at you in a different way.
yeah,
Yeah, I totally get that. One of the issue, I don't want to say issues, but challenges with, a lot of people that I work with is understanding the outcome of which they want, but not necessarily knowing the initial step to actually get from where you're at, which was more than likely a little bit of a darker place than where you actually want to be. So I want to ask from your personal experience, obviously, we just got done talking about rehab and detox and all of that. So that would be obviously probably step one. But in conjunction with that, what are some, a couple of other things that you would recommend from your own personal experience that
yeah.
you had to do in order to get from, a dark place to a lighter place in your personal life?
So, I mean, obviously the detox thing is like very unique to substance abuse. So like, yeah, and we touch base on that. Like I think if someone needs medical detox, like, yeah, you need it. We don't need, we don't need people dying out here, who could be useful in the future. But for me, I know like the first thing was like totally accepting and like again the honesty thing, like accepting and being honest with the fact that like this problem exists, and like despite all evidence, like I was living on the streets for 10 years. I was like 8 months pregnant, and I was like that was normal life to me. And like at some point I had to like be honest with myself that like this is not the life I want to live. Like if I don't want to change, I'm not going to. And honestly, I didn't for a long time. It was easier for me to continue to like live in the delusion that like this is all I deserve. This is like I can't ever be happy. So like if I don't deserve happiness, I'm not capable of happiness, then like, I might as well numb out my existence as best I can. Like, and finally, like I had to have like a moment of like honesty and clarity with myself where I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And like maybe something could be different. And I also am like a huge proponent of like the time and space, for healing. And like I believe in that, in all first steps. Like if you want to make any change in any problem, like we need to create the time and the space for healing. And like in substance abuse, obviously, detox and treatment like are a pretty easy thing to, for that. And I am definitely of the belief that like treatment doesn't, it gets me sober, but it certainly doesn't keep me sober. I went to treatment very many times unsuccessfully, but I think that there's like a time and a place for healing. And if I am not willing to like, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? Like it's not going to feel great, and that's still today. Like I've had periods of growth, like, outside of treatment in my sobriety where like I see that I need to do work. And like, how do I see that I need to do work is like, I start feeling uncomfortable with the way I'm acting as a human. Like I don't like the way I'm showing up in my relationships. I'm not feeling comfortable about, whatever it may be. And I see that like there's more work to be done, right? And like I need to accept that like it's not going to feel comfortable, and I need to be okay with the fact that like I'm going to have to take a time and some space to do some work, and it's probably not going to feel great. Like I'm going to have to get honest about things. I'm going to have to accept responsibility for like my faults and my actions and things where like I don't want to, because I'm Niki and I'm in control of my circumstances, and I want like everybody to see, type A Niki. And like I it's hard, but like it's so necessary to be honest and like to take that space and like understand and acknowledge that like it's not going to feel great. And that doesn't matter what the change is. It could be substance abuse, it could be mental health, like it could just be, the way I'm talking to my husband about doing chores around the house. Like there's times in my marriage when I have not liked the way that I approach my husband about doing dishes. And like, I don't like the way I'm showing up as a wife, and I need to acknowledge that. And like, that doesn't always feel great either,
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I love that you're mentioning everything, because it's not just, the subject of the day, it's everyday life. Everyday life where we're constantly having to evolve and check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
Exactly.
And all the goodness that comes along with it. And that's part of what you were mentioning before, the importance of personal growth and the importance of, being able to recognize those things, outside of, learning about that part of being a human. There's no recognition of any of that. We're just kind of like flailing around earth, not even, and that's like probably a good 60 to 70% of the humans.
Yes.
They just have no idea what's going on. They're just
Yes.
like hanging out. And a very small percentage of individuals are actually doing the work to try to figure out, how to manage, how to human better, as I
yes. No, totally.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what's the number one lesson you've learned about life?
That it's not all about me. And like, that's a hard lesson. Like I'm proud of my accomplishments. I'm proud of the way I can show up in relationships today. But like, if we strip all of those things away, I have to remember that like I can still be helpful to other people, and I can still be useful to other people. And it doesn't matter if I own a home, if I own a car, if I have a driver's license, if I don't, if I have a job, like the universe has shown me like those things can be taken away from me. And like, I need to remember that, my purpose is not to, I heard this in a TED talk last night because, I love TED talks. Like it's not for me to leave my legacy by building a statue of myself. It's me leaving my legacy by drawing a map to the future. Like it's not about me. I know. Oh my gosh, I love TED Talks. My legacy and like my impact and how I can do the most good is by creating a better future for generations I won't even see. That's what it's all about. What can I do to help this earth?
Absolutely. That's great. Absolutely. I want to ask, have you ever heard of, or do you have limiting beliefs? Are you familiar with limiting beliefs? Some people aren't.
So somewhat. I mean, I'm it's like a big thing that comes up. Like we have like reservations, we have things that like hold us back. And like I know in like my social work world, we like call them like, our internal biases that like kind of hold us back and limit our view. And I totally do, and I still do. And I think a big one of them was this like this spiritual piece that has become so, it's like the cornerstone of my life and everything. And like, I was not open to that fact that like, anything bigger than Niki existed in this universe. Like I was raised on like self-sufficiency. You get the job done for yourself. And like, religion and spirituality are for weak-minded people. And like, oh my gosh, how crazy is that? That like, that person that held that belief so strongly, is now a person that like totally, any self-reliance that I have, comes from like this greater belief that like I am attuned to something bigger than myself out there. And like it's crazy to me because like that was not in my realm of like possibility. Like I was not for that. When I got sober, I was like, no, I can keep myself sober. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. And like thank God I was able to like set that aside. Which I think, again, alcohol and drug addiction can make you very willing to set aside some of these beliefs that you've like held on to for so long, right? This idea of like self-sufficiency and not asking for help. Crippling drug addiction really makes you more willing to put those things aside at some point.
Yes, yes, I agree. And I want to ask what you do. I'm assuming it's something in the realm of your journey that you've been on. It's been a huge part of your life. Do you mind
Yeah.
talking to us a little bit about what you do? And
Sure. So now I actually work for the state. So I worked in the field of substance abuse specifically for a couple of years, and like I mentioned before, my niche was always moms. It's parents in general, but obviously, being a person who like has carried a child, so it's very humbling to like not have that experience get and keep you sober. And my experience with DCF, and like the other systems that you come and play once your child is like taken into the system, like it is the most like it's difficult and it's hard and it's frustrating. And I saw so many opportunities for things that could be fixed in this system. And I actually now work in the child welfare system. I work with parents who have had their children removed by DCF. So like who would have thought like the biggest thing that like I thought would take me down and destroy my life has become, the most useful thing that I can offer to others is, my experience with having my child taken away from me because I couldn't stay sober. Now I get to help with those parents. And I went back to school for social work so I could continue to be more useful to them, enhancing my education with my lived experience, because like I want to be as helpful to as many people as possible, while I'm on this earth.
definitely, definitely. I love hearing that. And I think that gives so many individuals hope, who are in early sobriety, who are now sitting down and they're thinking like, oh, fuck, like, what am I going to do now? Is there even anything that I can do?
Yeah.
And, the drastic, obvious change in your life, proving that working the steps, doing all the things and buckling down, you can be successful and you can use your story to your advantage to help others out there. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And like my
Absolutely.
experience has shown, it doesn't matter like what you come in with. I had a laundry list of legal issues. I lost my license for 7 years. I've gone through the process of like, I can pass a level 2 background check now. I got my exemption. Like
Wow.
you can do those things. And
Yeah.
like, I didn't think that that was possible.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just taking the steps. You have to like adult,
It's hard.
like
I
if
didn't
you're,
really learn to adult till I was like 30.
yeah, but that's just part of it. It's like if you started, in your addiction when you were a teenager, and then you don't get out of it until 15, 20 years later. At that point, you're an adult. So
Yeah.
you have to jump from, however old you were, 15, 16, 17 or younger, to all of a sudden 30.
Yeah.
That's the responsibilities of a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
They want to get a certain job, a certain career, a certain education. They have to fill out forms. They have to meet with people. They have to get dressed up. They have to like
Yeah.
do adult things. So definitely something people are capable of doing. All of us are. And I think that your story is gorgeous in showing that it's not easy, but it's doable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. And like my experience and the experience of so many people around me has shown that like doesn't matter how far down. I mean, I see people that, we self-proclaim we should be dead. And like here we are sober and helping others.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. What does success mean to you?
success means, I say this and like I'm gonna really hopefully beat this point home, like being the best human I can be. And like not just, for me and my life. And like I think I can be as useful as possible to as many people as possible. And like if I'm lucky, maybe I get to be a part of change for some other people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to ask last question. I always like to leave the audience with a little bit of advice from our guests, but obviously those that are still hanging out with us almost an hour in are resonating with your story. They're pulling information for either themselves or somebody that they know. So I want to ask you, in using your story as a reference, what advice would you give to females who are possibly struggling with being their authentic selves?
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest part,
Yeah.
Gosh. You know, being honest and like understanding that, having a relationship with myself, like it's something I struggle with every day, like there's days when I say things and I'm like, oh, like I could have said that better, like it's hard. And it took years, like my first year in sobriety, for sure, I was very much concerned with what other people thought of me. And like, this has been my go-to piece of advice I give myself when I say something and bite my tongue, or if like I get out of the house and I'm like, oh, this outfit doesn't look great. Like this is not the Niki I want to portray to the world. I ask myself, like, is it Niki who cares, or like, what is, God, the universe, like create whatever you call it, does he care? Because like I know that my God, my higher power doesn't care about like a lot of the little Niki things. Like I can be useful. And like people don't care about a lot of the things I do. I had like massive nasal and like dental surgery on my sinuses, and my face was like super swollen. I had a ton of teeth pulled in the back. Niki was very self-conscious about the fact that I had a bunch of teeth missing. And like I forget the fact that like I came in here, with like no medical care, no dental care, like dying, and like I have the capability to like get healthcare today, and like nobody cares, right? If I had a couple teeth missing, like I can still carry a message of hope. Like that's the thing. Like, is it Niki who cares, or like
I
is it
love
the universe who cares? That's like my gauge when I see myself like slipping back into this like uncomfortability. Like who cares? The people I'm helping don't care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. And I think that when we are trying to be our authentic selves, a lot of times we're using the excuse of other people judging us when a lot of times they're not judging us. We're
Yeah.
judging what we think they're judging us on.
Oh yeah. That's
So
my
yeah.
MO. 100%. This is what I think you're thinking about. So I'm going to go ahead and address it up front. So I feel like I'm controlling the
Yeah,
judgment that
yeah.
might not even be happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. I so appreciate you hanging out with me for an hour and sharing a little bit about your story and your journey and what you've been through and where you are now. One of the things that I appreciate about storytelling here on the Her Version platform is we spend a lot of time in the solution. We spend a lot of time in what it looks like now. Given a few moments of the storyline and where you came from, but actually giving people hope and giving people the inspiration to realize that, hey, I came from something really shitty, but look at me now.
Yeah.
And it's only going to go up from here. And I'm so proud of you and so happy for your children and your husband and the impact that you're making on the world. I think that your message is so strong, and I so appreciate people like you who are open to coming on and sharing a little bit about their past in order to help, give other people some hope and some light.
Yes. Thank you for having me. That's what it's all about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I agree 100%. Well, any closing thoughts before I close up here?
No, I think I said it already. Honesty is the beginning, and it can take us pretty cool places.
Yep, 100%. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. For those of you listening live, we so appreciate you being here and supporting us. If you're watching us on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so we know where you were and we can shoot you some love back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better, than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and you like and you share. If you have a story to share, make sure you reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others. Do something awesome today. Much love.